The Nexeri Empire's flagship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in prismatic patterns across the void. Admiral Vexthor stood at the command center, his iridescent scales shifting from deep purple to amber as he observed the approaching blue planet on the main viewport. 3,000 years of interstellar conquest had taught the Nexeri one unchanging truth: primitive civilizations fell easily. Status report on the human defenses, Vexthor commanded, his voice carrying the weight of countless victories. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Kilara, brought up a holographic display of Earth's military capabilities: primitive nuclear weapons, chemically propelled projectiles, and rudimentary energy weapons. Admiral, their most advanced satellites can barely detect our approach. Their entire defense network operates on electromagnetic frequencies we mastered millennia ago. Vexthor's facial tendrils twitched in amusement. The humans had already detected their presence, of course. Their primitive communication channels were flooding with panicked messages, desperate pleas for peace talks, and hollow threats. It was always the same with species that had barely achieved spaceflight. "Send the standard ultimatum," he ordered, settling into his command chair. "Though I doubt they'll have the wisdom to surrender." The Nexeri invasion fleet spread out in a perfect geometric formation, 100 ships, each larger than Earth's largest cities. Their quantum crystalline hulls, grown rather than built, contained enough firepower to reduce the surface of a planet to molten slag. Their shield technology, perfected over thousands of years, could withstand the force of a small star going nova. As the ultimatum was broadcast worldwide, the humans' response was predictable. Their military forces mobilized, their leaders gathered in bunkers, and their media channels erupted with chaos. What surprised Vexthor, however, was the complete absence of fear in the official response from Earth's Unified Defense Council. "We reject your demands for surrender," the message stated simply. "Humanity does not bow to threats." Vexthor's scales rippled with dark amusement. "Admirable but foolish. Begin the first phase of the assault. Target their primary military installations. Let's show them the futility of resistance." The Nexeri fleet's weapon systems powered up, crystalline matrices channeling enough energy to power a small civilization. The first volley of quantum torpedoes streaked toward Earth's surface, their paths precise and inevitable. Earth's defensive response was exactly as predicted. Interceptor missiles, railgun projectiles, and hastily aimed energy weapons rose to meet the Nexeri assault. The humans' weapons splashed harmlessly against the crystalline shields, their most powerful explosions barely registering on the fleet's sensors. As expected, Kilara noted, her scales showing hints of boredom. "Their weapons are proving as ineffective as our scans suggested." But something about the humans' defensive pattern caught Vexthor's attention. Their resistance seemed almost perfunctory, as if they were going through the motions, following an expected script. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. "Analyze their defense pattern," he ordered. "Look for anomalies." The fleet's quantum computers processed the data, comparing Earth's military response to thousands of previous encounters with primitive civilizations. Everything aligned with standard patterns of desperate resistance, except Admiral. Kilara's scales shifted to a concerned green. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures from several points on the planet's surface. The readings don't match any known weapons technology." Vexthor's tendrils stiffened. Something wasn't right. The humans were too calm, too organized in their resistance. They were fighting as if they had a plan, not as if they were facing extinction. "Full scan of the planet's surface," he commanded. "I want to know what they're hiding." But before the scans could complete, the first indication that something was terribly wrong came from the outer edges of the fleet. A small Earth satellite, previously dismissed as harmless, suddenly emitted a pulse of energy unlike anything in the Nexeri database. The pulse passed through the quantum crystalline shields of the nearest ship as if they didn't exist, striking the hull directly. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. The crystalline structure that had withstood the forces of supernovas began to resonate at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible. Cracks appeared, spreading like lightning through the ship's hull. In seconds, the mighty vessel shattered into millions of glittering fragments. For the first time in his long career of conquest, Admiral Vexthor felt something he had never expected to experience while facing a primitive species: fear. All ships, evasive maneuvers. He shouted, but it was already too late. More satellites were powering up, their impossible weapons targeting the Nexeri fleet with devastating precision. The humans had done what no other species had managed in 3,000 years. They had found the fundamental frequency at which quantum crystalline structures became unstable. They had turned the Nexeri's greatest strength into their greatest vulnerability. And they had waited until the perfect moment to reveal it. 3 months earlier, in a facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the simulation results scrolling across her holographic display. The quantum resonance patterns were finally starting to make sense, revealing a fundamental weakness in the alien technology that had conquered half the galaxy. The discovery had been accidental, born from the study of a tiny fragment of crystalline material recovered from a Nexeri scout ship that had crashed in the Atacama Desert 2 years ago. While the world's governments publicly denied any knowledge of alien life, a secret coalition of scientists had been working tirelessly to understand the advanced technology. Dr. Chen called out Dr. James Rodriguez, her colleague in quantum mechanics. The latest test results are in. The resonance effect is stable across all simulated conditions. Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the data streams. The Nexeri's quantum crystalline technology was brilliant but fundamentally flawed. Like all crystals, it had a natural frequency at which it would vibrate. The aliens had managed to suppress this weakness through incredibly advanced engineering, but they had missed something crucial, something only humans, with their history of working with imperfect solutions, would think to explore. "They're too perfect," Sarah muttered, a phrase that had become her mantra over the last few months. They engineered out all the obvious harmonics, but they never considered the subharmonic resonance patterns. The facility, known officially as Project Achilles, had been operating at maximum capacity since the first confirmed detection of the Nexeri fleet entering the outer solar system. The world's best scientists, engineers, and military strategists had gathered here, racing against time to develop a weapon that could penetrate the supposedly impenetrable alien shields. General Michael Hayes entered the lab, his presence immediately drawing the attention of the gathered scientists. "Dr. Chen, please tell me you have something. Our latest intelligence suggests we have less than a week before they reach Earth." Sarah straightened, fighting exhaustion. She hadn't slept more than a few hours at a time in weeks. "We've cracked it, General. The crystalline structure of their technology has a fundamental weakness. It's like an opera singer shattering a wine glass, but on a quantum level." She pulled up a new simulation, showing how a precisely calibrated energy pulse could trigger a cascade failure in the Nexeri's quantum crystalline matrix. Their shields are designed to stop any conventional attack, but they can't block this. It's not a weapon in the traditional sense. It's more like a key that unlocks their structural integrity. The general studied the simulation with intense focus. "Can we build it in time?" "We already have," Dr. Rodriguez interjected, leading them to a massive chamber adjacent to the main lab. Inside stood what appeared to be a conventional satellite, but its interior housed technology that existed nowhere else on Earth. "We call it the resonance inducer," Sarah explained. "It generates a precise frequency of quantum energy that will trigger the harmonic collapse of their crystalline technology. We've built 12 of them, disguised as normal communication satellites. They're ready for immediate deployment." General Hayes nodded grimly. "And you're certain this will work?" "We'll only get one chance at this." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "The physics is sound. The simulations are perfect. But you're right. We'll only get one shot. The moment we reveal this capability, they'll adapt. We need to time this perfectly." The general turned to his aide. "Begin Operation Silent Thunder." I want those satellites in position within 48 hours. And maintain radio silence. Absolute secrecy is crucial. As the military personnel rushed to execute their orders, Sarah returned to her workstation. They had solved the impossible problem, found the flaw in the perfect defense. But timing would be everything. They needed the Nexari fleet to commit fully to their attack, to be arranged in an optimal pattern for maximum effect. It's ironic, Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, standing beside her. Their greatest strength, their technological perfection, is actually their greatest weakness. They're so advanced, so certain of their superiority, that they never considered someone might find a way to use their own technology against them. Sarah smiled grimly. That's always been humanity's advantage. We're messy, imperfect, and we know it. We look for solutions they'd never consider because we've always had to work around our limitations. Over the next several days, as the Nexari fleet approached and the world's militaries made a show of conventional resistance, the scientists of Project Achilles worked frantically to fine-tune their weapon. Every calculation had to be perfect, every satellite positioned with absolute precision. The fate of humanity would depend not on matching the Nexari's technological superiority, but on exploiting their blind spot, their inability to conceive that a primitive species might understand their technology well enough to find its fundamental flaw. As Sarah made her final adjustments to the quantum resonance frequencies, she thought about the long history of human innovation. Time and again, humanity had faced seemingly insurmountable challenges and found unexpected ways to overcome them. The Nexari, for all their advanced technology, were about to learn a crucial lesson. Never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history solving problems they weren't supposed to be able to solve. The first wave of Nexari attacks struck military bases across the globe with surgical precision. Quantum torpedoes pierced the atmosphere like falling stars, their impacts releasing enough energy to vaporize everything within a kilometer radius. The world's conventional defenses proved as ineffective as expected, but that was part of the plan. In the underground command center of Project Achilles, Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays with forced calm. Each destroyed installation represented countless lives lost, but showing their full defensive capabilities too early would doom the entire planet. Timing was everything. Status of the resonance satellites. General Hayes demanded, his voice tight with controlled tension. 9 are in optimal position. Sarah replied, monitoring the quantum frequency readings. 3 more are maneuvering into their final coordinates. We need another 17 minutes. The general's jaw clenched as another explosion lit up the tactical display. The Chinese carrier group just took a direct hit. The Indians are reporting total loss of their air defense network. We're running out of time. Above them, the Nexari fleet had arranged itself in an attack formation that would have been beautiful if it weren't so lethal. Their crystalline ships caught the sun's light, creating an aurora of death in the upper atmosphere. They were positioning themselves for what they clearly intended to be the final assault. Admiral, Sub-Commander Kilara's voice echoed across the Nexari command bridge. The humans' resistance is falling faster than anticipated. Their nuclear deterrent has been reduced by 60%. Admiral Vexthor watched the battle with growing unease. Something about the humans' defense pattern nagged at his tactical instincts. Their responses were too measured, too controlled for a species facing extinction. Analyze their satellite network, he ordered suddenly. Every orbital object, no matter how insignificant. In the Project Achilles bunker, alarms suddenly blared. They're scanning the satellites, Dr. Rodriguez reported, his fingers flying across the control interface. The quantum shielding is holding, but they're being thorough. Sarah's heart raced. The satellite's stealth systems were the product of reverse-engineered Nexari technology, but they weren't perfect. A detailed enough scan might reveal their true nature. How long until final position? 12 minutes, Rodriguez answered. But at this rate, they'll detect the anomalies in 8. General Hayes turned to his communications officer. Initiate Protocol Omega. All remaining forces, full engagement. Draw their attention. Across the globe, humanity's surviving military forces launched everything they had. Fighter jets screamed into the sky on suicide runs. Missile silos emptied their arsenals. Rail guns fired their last rounds. It was a spectacular display of defiance, a last stand that would be remembered in history, if anyone survived to write it. The Nexari fleet responded exactly as hoped, their attention diverted by the massive assault. Ships adjusted position to strengthen their defensive formation, their sensors focused on the incoming threats. 6 minutes to position, Rodriguez counted down. On the Nexari flagship, Admiral Vexthor's unease grew stronger. These attacks, he mused, watching the tactical display. They're too coordinated, too precise. His eyes narrowed as he studied the patterns. They're hurting us. Admiral, Kylara questioned. Look at their attack vectors, Vexthor explained, his scales darkening with concern. They're not trying to break through our defenses. They're pushing us into a specific formation. Sarah watched the final countdown with growing tension. The remaining satellites were almost in position, but the Nexari fleet was beginning to shift, their perfect formation showing signs of breaking apart. They figured it out, she whispered. 3 minutes, Rodriguez announced. Admiral Vexthor's command cut through the Nexari command channel. All ships, break formation. There. But his realization came too late. The last satellite slid into position, completing the resonance network. Humanity's trap was ready, and the Nexari fleet had unwittingly arranged itself in the optimal pattern for maximum effect. General. Sarah looked to Hayes, her hand hovering over the activation sequence. The general took a deep breath, the weight of humanity's future heavy in his voice. Dr. Chen, you may fire when ready. Sarah's finger descended toward the control panel, carrying with it humanity's last, best hope for survival. The resonance inducers powered up, their quantum matrices aligning to produce a frequency that would either save Earth or doom it. In the heartbeat before activation, Sarah thought of all the civilizations that had fallen to the Nexari, all the species that had tried to match their technological perfection and failed. Humanity had taken a different approach. They hadn't tried to build a better shield or a stronger weapon. Instead, they had looked for the flaw in perfection itself. The activation signal pulsed through the satellite network. There was no turning back now. The effect was both beautiful and terrifying. As the quantum resonance pulse rippled through space, the Nexari ship's crystalline hulls began to shimmer with previously unseen frequencies. Light danced across their surfaces in impossible patterns, like aurora borealis trapped in glass. Admiral Vexthor watched in horror as the nearest destroyer's hull began to vibrate at a molecular level. Emergency protocols, he shouted. Reconfigure shield harmonics. But it was already too late. The destroyer's quantum crystalline structure, perfected over millennia of development, began to fracture along previously impossible stress lines. In seconds, the massive vessel shattered like a wineglass struck by its resonant frequency, its fragments spreading across the Earth's orbit in a glittering cloud of destruction. In the Project Achilles bunker, Sarah Chen and her team watched their displays with bated breath. Multiple direct hits confirmed, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Crystalline structure failure cascading through the fleet. One by one, the mighty ships of the Nexari invasion force began to break apart. Their perfect technology, the very source of their supremacy, had become their undoing. The quantum resonance wave continued to spread, each destroyed ship adding its own crystalline fragments to the destructive pattern. By the first star, Kylara whispered on the Nexari flagship's bridge, her scales pale with shock. How did they? This shouldn't be possible. Admiral Vexthor gripped his command chair as his ship shuddered under the assault of impossible energies. The humans hadn't just found a way through their defenses. They had turned the fundamental nature of Nexari technology against itself. Full retreat, he ordered. All surviving ships, emergency temporal jump. But the resonance effect had spread too far, destabilizing the quantum matrices necessary for faster-than-light travel. Ships attempting to jump experienced catastrophic failures, their hulls dissolving into clouds of crystalline dust. The mighty Nexeri fleet, which had conquered thousands of worlds, was being undone by a species they had dismissed as primitive. On Earth, military commanders watched in amazement as their sensor screens showed Nexeri ships disintegrating one after another. The space around their planet had become a graveyard of broken crystal and shattered pride. "We're detecting multiple power surges throughout the remaining fleet," Rodriguez announced. "They're trying to adapt their shield frequencies, but the resonance pattern is self-sustaining now. Each destroyed ship adds its own harmonic to the wave." Sarah nodded grimly. "They can't stop it. The very perfection of their crystalline technology makes it impossible to dampen the resonance once it starts. It's like trying to stop an avalanche by adding more snow." General Hayes studied the tactical display, watching as the number of intact Nexeri ships dwindled rapidly. "What about their flagship? Can they still threaten Earth?" "Their main weapons are offline," Sarah replied, analyzing the incoming data. "The resonance effect has compromised their primary power systems. They're running on emergency protocols now." On the Nexeri flagship, Admiral Vexthor faced the unthinkable, defeat at the hands of a species his empire had considered barely worth conquering. His mighty vessel, once the pride of the Nexeri fleet, was now little more than a crippled hulk. "Admiral," Kylara reported, her voice heavy with disbelief, "we're losing containment on all primary systems. The humans, they didn't just find a way through our defenses. They've rendered our entire technological base unstable." Vexthor watched as another cruiser succumbed to the resonance effect, its beautiful crystalline form dissolving into space. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans hadn't tried to match Nexeri technology. They had found its fundamental flaw and exploited it with brutal efficiency. In the Project Achilles bunker, celebrations began to break out as the scale of their victory became clear. But Sarah Chen remained focused on her monitors, watching the quantum resonance pattern spread through space. She knew this wasn't just a victory, it was a revolution. The humans hadn't just defeated an invasion. They had proven that even the most advanced technology could be vulnerable to innovative thinking. "General," she said, turning to Hayes, "we should prepare for possible survivors. Some of their auxiliary systems might be shielded enough to maintain basic life support." The general nodded, already coordinating with global military commands. The world's armed forces, barely recovered from the initial assault, began preparing for possible rescue operations. Even in victory, humanity was thinking about saving lives, including those of their would-be conquerors. As the resonance wave continued its work, transforming the mighty Nexeri fleet into a cloud of glittering debris, Sarah reflected on the irony of their victory. The Nexeri had spent thousands of years perfecting their technology, making it more powerful, more efficient, more precise. But in doing so, they had forgotten one of the most important lessons that humanity had learned through countless failures and setbacks. Perfect systems often have perfect failure modes. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth's orbital space had been transformed into a glittering nebula of crystalline debris. Search and rescue operations were underway, with human vessels carefully navigating through the field of fractured Nexeri technology to locate and retrieve survivors. The mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to scattered fragments, a testament to the power of innovative thinking over technological superiority. Admiral Vexthor stood in the observation room of the Project Achilles facility, his scales a muted gray of contemplation, as he watched Dr. Sarah Chen explain the principles behind the resonance weapon. The flagship's auxiliary systems had survived long enough for an emergency landing, making him one of the few senior Nexeri officers to survive the catastrophe. The quantum resonance effect wasn't just about finding the right frequency, Sarah explained, displaying holographic models of the crystalline structure. It was about understanding that perfect systems often have perfect failure modes. Your technology was so advanced, so refined, that when it failed completely. The Admiral's facial tendrils twitched with a mixture of admiration and chagrin. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species has ever approached the problem this way. We assumed that any effective defense would have to match or exceed our level of technological development. That was your blind spot, Sarah replied. Humanity has always had to work with imperfect solutions. We've learned to look for weaknesses, to find unexpected approaches. Sometimes the most elegant solution isn't about having better technology, but about understanding the fundamental principles behind it. In the weeks following the battle, the implications of humanity's victory rippled across the galaxy. The Nexeri Empire, faced with the sudden vulnerability of their core technology, was forced to reassess centuries of technological and cultural development. The quantum resonance discovery had not only defeated their fleet, but had also rendered their entire military infrastructure unstable. Dr. Rodriguez entered the observation room, carrying fresh data from the ongoing analysis of the Nexeri debris field. The resonance effect has finally stabilized, he reported, but the implications of our discovery go far beyond military applications. We're finding potential civilian uses for quantum resonance technology that could revolutionize everything from energy production to medical treatment. The remaining Nexeri ships throughout the galaxy had been recalled, their empire suddenly forced to rely on diplomatic relations rather than military might. The species they had conquered were being granted independence, and a new era of interstellar cooperation was beginning to emerge. General Hayes joined them, reviewing reports from the ongoing cleanup operations. The UN Security Council has approved the formation of an international space defense force, he announced. But its primary mission won't be military. We're focusing on scientific research and peaceful exploration. Vexthor turned from the window, his scales shifting to a deep blue of revelation. Perhaps this is what we lost sight of over our millennia of conquest. True advancement isn't just about perfecting what you have. It's about being willing to question your fundamental assumptions and find new ways of thinking. Sarah nodded, pulling up new simulations on her holographic display. These showed potential applications of combined human and Nexeri technology, working together in ways neither civilization had previously imagined. That's always been humanity's greatest strength. We're not perfect, and we know it. We're always looking for new solutions, new approaches, new ways of understanding the universe. The aftermath of the invasion had brought unexpected opportunities. The Nexeri's vast knowledge of space travel and advanced technology, combined with humanity's innovative approach to problem-solving, was opening up possibilities that neither civilization had envisioned alone. Teams of human and Nexeri scientists were already working together, sharing insights and developing new technologies that incorporated the best aspects of both cultures. We're establishing joint research facilities around the globe, Rodriguez explained, showing plans for the new installations. The goal is to combine Nexeri precision with human creativity. We're already seeing breakthrough developments in sustainable energy, space travel, and medical technology. The defeat of the Nexeri fleet had done more than save Earth. It had demonstrated a fundamental truth about progress and innovation. True advancement wasn't just about developing more powerful technology. It was about understanding the principles behind that technology and being willing to approach problems from new angles. As Sarah watched human and Nexeri scientists working together in the laboratory below, she reflected on how their victory had changed both civilizations. The humans had gained access to advanced technology beyond their dreams, while the Nexeri had learned the value of imperfection and innovative thinking. Perhaps, Vexthor mused, his scales showing the golden hues of optimism, this defeat was actually a victory for both our peoples. We had become so focused on perfection that we forgot the importance of adaptation and innovation. The resonance weapon that had shattered the Nexeri fleet was being adapted for peaceful purposes, its principles applied to everything from construction to healing. The very technology that had nearly spelled Earth's doom was now helping to build a better future for both species. As the sun set over the Rocky Mountains, casting long shadows through the observation room, Sarah Chen smiled at the sight of human and Nexeri children playing together in the facility's recreation area. They were growing up in a world where different approaches to problem-solving were celebrated, where perfection was no longer the ultimate goal, and where innovation knew no boundaries. The invasion that had threatened to end human civilization had instead ushered in a new age of cooperation and discovery. In failing to conquer Earth, the Nexeri had found something far more valuable than another subject world. They had found partners who could help them see the universe in entirely new ways.